Hi guys, it's Aegis here. So today I'm here with another desert deck profile. This time it's actually something that I already did, which is a Levidras deck profile. I have been updating the deck with some experience with the deck and also some suggestions that I also received. Uh, Something that I find funny to actually put it in there. Something is actually really good. So. And we are actually getting a new Levidras very soon, basically next week. So before we get our Destined King, we let's like do a upgrade before we get to that point, because once we get there, the deck is probably going to be something different, right? The idea will still be the same with the concept of the markers and stuff, but I do think the deck will change a bit. So let's kind of conclude before the upgrades. So for the right line, it's still his own right line, which is just great. Nothing much more to say about that. You get to do your searches, you get to do right for free. So far, I think it's still better to use his own right line until we meet something better, which will be more generic, but I don't think so far we need that. And then 3 more Levidras, which is something that will be turned into the Destined King for sure, but we can still use the normal Levidras because we can still just put it in and generate more markers with the Destined King. But for now, of course, we need it for the personal ride, so it's there. It's quite important, even though with the changes that is made to the deck, is actually making the power line a little bit more stable and less weaker. But having the personal ride is definitely going to help. And then of course, uh, the little buck here, Enotogasti, uh, is helping you to attack from the back row if you don't have the Fox Seal. If you don't have it, you really rely on this card, and it actually helps you to like apply pressure to your opponent. Uh, because as long as you can put something on top of the deck, that means something, right? So uh, they do need to be very careful, and you can even control how they think, because you can just simply put something on top and they just give you overguard if they don't know about the strategy very well. Because sometimes you actually need specific units on top to get them before you miss them, right? Of course, if you see trigger, that's definitely something that you want to put it on top, but um, at least you get a choice. And then the Huli for the Reborn, I actually cut her down because through a lot of testing, her counterblast cost is actually quite heavy, and uh, in order to get power, you actually need 3 or more Infinity Eye markers. It's not hard, but then uh, it kind of limits how you play with the deck sometimes, right? Uh, because you will eventually run out of resources, and you never always can get to see her early game. So um, I cut her down to 3. So far, it's doing me okay. I have a lot of other reborn cards that doesn't cost counterblast, so um, she's here to, in case you really need to reborn something, or you need to kind of like a chain reaction to keep reborning a lot of stuff. But if not, you can just use her as an early rusher, or just use her for your right deck, which is also fine. And then we have, of course, which is also something that I already used before, the Devouring Arms of Collapse. This is definitely your highest speeder. You definitely need it. I don't think you need 4 of, because you usually what you have is just 1 to 2 on the board. You do want other types of regards on board at the same time. One of them will be this, One of them will be the Fox Seal. Right, so those already take up 2 spots. This is the third spot, so you only had 2 more slots in, right? So, and sometimes you do need your little knights there to do your counter charge, so that's already a 4. So like kind of maximum that you will have is like 2 of them, so you don't actually need 4, in my opinion. I do rather use other different cards as a combination to make the deck stronger instead of just relying on one unit to do the beatdown. And that's why the Gabrek is actually coming in. Well, Gabrek is something that I haven't been using early, which I know it is a good card to the deck for sure. Of course, it depending on the deck types that you're facing. If your opponent is so good at clearing their board, for example, if they play Harry, that they basically just get the whole board disappear, then of course it's not going to help you that much. But there are a lot of decks that relies on unit stays on the field, and those units will likely be a grade 1. So by doing that, that means you are blocking them to use PGs from hand, which is quite important, even though it's only when this unit attacks basically. But you are creating one attack that can bypass PG if they don't have the placeholder, which is huge. Because if that happens, that means they need to use the PG somewhere else, and they need to give you a lot of resources so you can pump this to a very big number and your opponent's on 5 damage, right? So you just need to use it at the right time, at the most likely to the fatal point where they are on 5th damage, and they might not have a lot of cards in hand. Then you just go in and do a big punch. That will probably win you the game, because he himself will plus 10k, right? And then you have the marker to plus 10, that's already 30, and then you do a personal run and put him in the basically on the front row, that is at 40, right? And if you get into more triggers, then it's about 40, and 40 is not easy to guard if they use a lot of resources early game, given that your whole deck is built up on the markers to pump up your reguards to make them very, very strong. So your opponents need to give you a lot of cards. So they are already giving you a lot of cards, and if you're asking more, they might not be able to give you that. And then of course our box series here for creating the boost, not only boosting the Levidras but also generating back row attackers. So I was thinking to actually cut this down, but then the importance of this card is just too much. Having it or don't have it is making so much of a difference, so I am putting out at 4 to make sure I see it a lot easier, to kind of increase the chances that I can actually see this card and put it behind my Vanguard to call it a day. So so far I don't have plans to cut this, and I hope I'm right. And then Clarence, for the counter charge, you do need that for sure. Nothing too much to say about that. Little cat for the defense, nothing too much to say about that as well. And then that is something that appears in one of my the comments that I received on my first profile Levidras, is actually using Elfan. Now Elfan, when this attack, and your opponents will need to call 2 or more cards at the same time from hand if they're guarding from hand to Guardian Circle, which is kind of like this to ask your opponents for more. And it's a simple 18 with the marker, and because you will need to use your Fox Seal, right? And it's also pumping to another 10k, so it's a simple 28k 2 cards requiring thing. And if you are facing like a deck that using 20k fronts, usually they can just drop that and call it a day. Now they cannot. They need to actually give you more stuff. And as long as you are asking them more stuff through different ways, you will drain their resources. So I do find this card very interesting to actually try out. So I put it in there. And like, you don't always need to call this out. You just need to, like, when you need to drain your opponent's resources, you want to do some fatal attacks, then you can actually bring it out. But else, you can just use it normally, right? Just as a booster or anything, and then just give it the chances to attack from the background when needed. And then for PGs, if you want to use the base order, you can, as I always say, up to you. But I think in this build it's doing okay. And then I'm changing the Holy Grail into the Pot of Greed because the counterblast usage is actually quite high, and sometimes I do want to have a chance to actually draw cards. So this gives me both options to choose, which I think is better. And then for Reborn, then Frozen Resentment for sure is milling the deck as well, squeezing the deck, making sure you meet triggers a lot easier, and then also put the key parts that you want to use to drop them so you can reborn them, which is great. Spiritual Body Condensation, another card to reborn. One is enough because more importantly, you want the mill more than the 5k, but you do want to have different ways to reborn your stuff. So here it is. And triggers is basically the same, which is of course the OT, and then 7 crits. If you don't have the sewing crit, that's fine, because I use it from hand to card only. Still using the draws, 10k draws, and then 4 heals. So trigger wise, I think it's still okay. If you want to use the front, you can, but I do still prefer a bit bigger hand size in this way. So there we go. So overall, the changes is just cutting some of the cards that are directly supports to the deck to something that's more like a toolboxing, which is basically these ones, and then adjusting the ratios of the orders, adding more here for the beating, and then that's basically it. Because with this deck, you actually have more rooms to kind of implementing what extra stuff you want than other decks. Because if you think about it, you can even completely take out the Hooli and just relies on your reborn orders, right? And from there, you can use a lot of other things. For example, you can even like max out these. Like we have more new supports, you can directly change to the new supports, and like you can use a lot of different rise support, a lot of different generic cards, because in this deck you can use the soul blasting one and you can use the energy blasting one. So both of them are going to help this deck too if you want to, but I prefer more reborn, so in case my board get touched, I do have enough resources to just build them up in one go and fight back. Because your Fox Seal will always be the target, and if they keep getting popped to the drop zone, you need to drag them back out with a lot of resources, right? So it's rather you have that resources to do it than waiting for the next one to come to your hand. So the reborn is still there. I just increasing the power level of my regards, make them stronger, make them more guard restrictions, make them hit harder, and yeah, that's basically it. But I do feel the deck is getting better and better. just need more practice to make perfect, and make sure you make the right choice. And then we are going to see the new Destined King coming out, and I will do another upgrade on this deck, which will be something else. But like the deck build will be something else, but some parts of it will still remains. We just need to see how other new supports and like what kind of generic support actually can help. Then we go from there. Yeah, I think that's it. If you have any questions, as usual, feel free to ask me in the comments down below. Subscribe for more deck profiles, deck fights, unboxing videos. Unboxing will be next week for set 5, and then the weekend will be Hong Kong WGP Deluxe Season 3, so there will be a lot of fight videos coming up as well, with set 5 available, with the new ban or restriction list supplied, so we can see if anything changes. Hopefully there is, and hopefully we can actually see new decks coming out to just compete and show you guys how they actually work in a competitive environment. Yeah, I think that's it for today. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you guys in the next video. Signing off.